Rapid demining, I think it has already been spoken of at the sessions before here. Speedy resettlement, again something that has been extraordinary. And one of the points that I would like to make here is that many never believed that settlement could be taking place so fast. There were some magazines abroad which advertised for volunteers for various NGOs who were going to be recruited for 4 to 5 years, because they thought they were going to have work for 4 to 5 years in northern Sri Lanka to do resettlement. We were sorry to disappoint them because we did the work much faster, but it shows how much and how they looked at this problem from outside. But it was possible for Sri Lanka to make changes in a positive manner to ensure that resettlement takes place so fast that it was not possible for people to even gather their wits to think that they are going to have a long drawn-out situation in this country. There was quick restoration of livelihood. I'll talk about that in a minute. Extensive infrastructure restoration. There was plenty to be done, restoring electricity, bringing the schools back to functioning, courthouses back, police stations back, roads to be done, bridges to be built. People will wonder, how did this happen so fast? But if you go today, and I can tell you I have been there 11 times to the north after the war was over, every time when I go, I have seen an extraordinary change taking place. And that's the satisfaction that we get in this whole effort. We see the changes so very quickly. And that's something that I think is sometimes lost because many people do not see how these things have changed so fast. And tremendous new initiatives have been taken in the banking sector. The rapid demining, as I said, contributed immensely. I think I must congratulate the forces who were involved in that. There was a tremendous amount of work that was done, which was, I think, unbelievable. Many people did not believe that such an effort could be practiced and implemented so fast. Resettlement took place. I won't detail with that because I think it has been already dealt with. And I must also show that the United Nations commended the government for these efforts. Although there may be various reports floating about today which do not reflect these views, I want to read out from a letter that was written by Mr. Neil Boone in April 2010, where he mentions very clearly the humanitarian catastrophe predicted by some quarters when almost 300,000 people escaped from the Vanni between January and May 2009 was averted. He goes on to say, two statistics reflect well the basic effectiveness of this government-led effort to assist them. A nutrition survey of children in the Manic Farm camps in May 2009 found levels of acute malnutrition of 35%. These were the people who came back after the conflict to the government-controlled areas. By December, the level was 13.5%, which is comparable to the national average. Another is increasing progress and strong partnership on demining, spurred by the government's own commitment to resources. So everyone was convinced that the government was committing its resources and putting its money where its mouth is and continuing those efforts. And he also goes on to say, I personally met regularly, sometimes many times a day, with government counterparts. So that shows very clearly how the UN was engaged and how they were involved in this effort, and we must thank them for the efforts that they have put in to be in partnership with us to ensure that this effort is delivered on time to the people. So quick restoration of livelihood was the key to the fast-tracked nation building. We knew that people have to be empowered to do what they want to do, and that was the key to the livelihood development campaign that we underwent. And that meant that there should be inclusive growth. It meant that we had to ensure that the pie becomes bigger and that the people can enjoy a part of that pie as quickly as possible. So there had to be broad-based growth, which meant that every single area was supported: cultivation, animal husbandry, fisheries, small industries, and every type of activity that the Northern Peninsula was used to had to be supported. So both the pace and the pattern of growth was critical. And at the same time, we had to ensure that there is financial inclusiveness. So we worked hard to bring about self-help groups. We had our own department which assisted the other banks to set up these units to ensure that these units will be able to receive money. It's one thing to be able to give money. It's another for the recipient to be strong enough to have the capacity and the capability to spend it and to use it and to deliver value with it. So we had to ensure that both these were happening at the same time, and that was one of the biggest challenges that we had. So we had to distribute the financial resources in a fair manner and also ensure that there is more and more support as far as the savings is concerned. The Sri Lankan economy has actually been moving well by that time. We had been focusing very clearly on rapid poverty alleviation, and some of the figures that we have been able to deliver have been extraordinary. These poverty figures are all figures that are presented and calculated on the same basis as the rest of the world. And the poverty that Sri Lanka had in 2006 to 2007 has dropped from 15.2% to 7.6% in the very, very short period of time. That's one of the fastest reductions of poverty in the history of the world. And that, if you look, you will find that the rural poverty alleviation dropped from 15% to 7%, and the estate poverty alleviation dropped from something like 32% to 9.2%. A very, very quick reduction due to certain interventions that the government was able to make, particularly restoration of electricity and provision of electricity, and ensuring that the road networks are provided, and that banks give money to people so that they will be also having the cash to develop themselves. So, in the north, it was vital that we undergo certain changes of that nature as well. So what was done? Firstly, we quickly restored the creation of livelihood opportunities. There were loans that were granted, and we supported the granting of loans at a very, very fast pace. Banks were encouraged to move, go quickly to the north, set up the centers. I remember immediately after the people came in from the uncleared areas to the cleared areas, and everything was cleared, we set up banks in containers. Branches were set up in containers. The forces helped us a great deal, but we set up those branches in containers. And I still remember that most of the money that the people carried when they brought in had to be laundered because the monies were so dirty. Money laundering, we are used to talking about money laundering in the normal sense, but this was money laundering in the true sense, that the money that was brought in was in pockets, it was hidden in various ways, and actually that money was in such dirty condition that it had to be laundered in order to be reused. Of course, the central bank issued new notes for those people so that they will at least have that benefit at that time, and this was the condition